everybody, it is Calxiyn and Hunter here, and if you guys enjoyed this video, you should subscribe for more RWBY videos. Check out the Patreon if you guys want to see our videos early, get videos like this early as well, our reaction, all that kind of stuff, and you guys should check out our Discord server if you guys want to talk with us more. Today we are going to be talking about Team RWBY falling in the endless pit of death. So yeah, Ambrosius has this whole thing about not falling, and in the OP we kind of see a lot of falling, right?
Cracking
and so
through the ice
obviously
into this black
people are panicking.
void.
So I feel like that we should talk about like multiple options. Obviously they're not gonna die, right? The show's called RWBY, right? So if they fall in the hole, which I feel like that they will fall at this point, but whether or not they fall like in the hole is a different story, and we'll talk about that. We sort of have two different theories of like other realm, Wonderland, right? Like stuff like that. And then we have like Hunter's theory, and so we'll get into it. But I feel like clearly they're not gonna die because the show's called RWBY, and they can't
Someone
die,
might
right?
die.
And so I feel like that if they fall in the hole, like let's talk about the hole. Like if Team RWBY falls in the hole, they won't die even if they fall in the hole. Now, let's talk about like Ruby and Juniper though, because like Team RWBY's the only one that falls in the hole in the OP. And so I was sort of thinking like Team Juniper like makes it to Vacuo and they're kind of like, we don't know what happened to Team RWBY, you know what I mean? Like, they're just like, right? Like, they're a little nervous, but then Team RWBY either goes on their own little adventure or something. That's kind of what I see happening here. And so let's talk about the alternatives for little adventure. What is a little adventure, really? So, apparently, there have been statements made, right, that there will be a detour on the way to Vacuo. We kind of always knew that. I think they said that at the beginning of this volume. I think Carrie was answering a question, or Miles or someone, and they were like, like Vacuo, like the question person was asking, and they were like, well, there's gonna be a detour, but then we'll get to that. Like, we'll see Vacuo eventually, right? And so, when you have that in mind, what seems to be the obvious detour now, right? When you have a portal straight to Vacuo, what's the obvious in-your-face detour? The obvious detour is falling in the hole, right? And so I feel like that at this point, like with all of these hints, I mean, it could be a red herring too, like don't forget, you know, but I feel like that they're gonna fall in the hole. But I want you to talk about your idea first before we get into mystical Wonderland time, because so Hunter has a different
my idea stretches kind of into your mystical Wonderland idea, but I feel like Cinder will use the Staff of Creation to make a new wish, and that will cause the sort of very unsafe, like Rainbow Road portal in-betweeny area. They really should have, like, specifically asked the genie for, like, some, like,
it didn't need to be in the
side
void.
rails.
Why wasn't it, like,
didn't
a tunnel?
need to be a void.
You know what I mean? Like, why wasn't it in a closed space? Like, why did you guys need to make something with a hole
so
at the
desperately unsafe.
Exactly.
But anyways, because only one thing can exist at a time, I imagine that it will slowly dissolve, just like how Penny's new wish body slowly dissolves.
Yes, like her old new robot body, and we talked about that in another
video. In this version, if you fall through the hole, you just die.
Yes.
Yes, you fall for infinity and you starve. It's a really unfortunate way to go. So Team RWBY and everyone there will try to save all the civilians to get into Vacuo, but eventually will be stuck, pressed up in a kind of like slowly dissolving corner.
Yeah.
And
kind of like the ice falling, because I think they were all on the same piece of ice, right?
Yes, and like the ice kind of broke underneath them, just like that Rainbow Road can break underneath
Exactly.
them. So what I think
that's good for either
I
theory.
think everyone thinks that they're gonna die, and they have a moment where they all tell they love each other, and they hold hands. Maybe we might...
Bumblebee kisses and then
would that be the Bumblebee kiss? Would that be like, I'm sorry, I loved you?
Party popper, and we're just
Let's so sad, pop! But then we break out the other party popper, because who saves them at the last possible moment? Zoom! A portal opens, which is the noise that the portals make. They make a zoom noise.
Right.
Like the Cat in the Hat 2. And then out of that comes Raven, and presumably also Crow and Robin, because maybe Raven went to go to Crow first.
Yes, exactly.
And then she's just like, kids, get in the van! And everyone goes through the portal,
or
and instead
it can even appear under them. Like they're following, and then we just see Raven's portal appear, they hit their ass on the ground, and they're just in front of Ty's, like, sunflower plotter, and then you just see Raven, like, standing there with her sword kind of menacingly, like, what the fuck are you guys doing, eh? Right, you know what I mean? And so we don't even see her, we just see the portal open.
She can open
them,
the portal and then keep it open, and maybe Tai Yang or someone else goes through it. Or maybe Crow or someone.
Because there's no solid ground, though, I'm assuming that the portal would open, like, in the empty void. And, like, they'd fall into it, and they'd kind of hit their ass more so than, like, Crow and Robin popping out of it.
Well, those are two options, but at the end of the day,
Raven's coming, is what you're saying.
Raven saves the day. We pop 2 party poppers, tears running down our face. And then they appear in Patch, and then suddenly it's like, oh, okay, that's what the detour was.
That's the detour.
And also,
Patch to Vacuum.
Yes, and then Patch is attached to Veil, meaning that they could walk across that continent. I think Anima. They can walk across Anima all the way to Veil, and that could be what season 9 would be.
And you would need Crow to go with Raven, or else if Crow goes to Vacuo, that's a big no-no. You know what I mean? Like, that wouldn't work, because then they could just instantly portal back to Crow and Vacuo. So Crow would also need to be with Raven, ideally, right? And so I feel like that's a really good idea.
They may not be in a place where there are portals. They don't even know, like, the portal things are happening right now. They're just confused. They ended up in, like, a Mario Kart course out of nowhere.
Yeah, like Crow and Robin and stuff, right? And so that's kind of interesting.
So it makes sense. So then it makes perfect sense why they don't then immediately portal over to Vacuo.
And I would also argue, like, some people are like, oh, but that would be like Deus Ex Machina, right? But it's the same as Raven saving Yang on the train. I would argue that her semblance probably also is sort of like Ren's, where it evolved to have another layer. So not only can she teleport to people she has bonds with, but she can also sense when they're kind of in danger. And that's how she got to Yang. That's my theory. I'm pretty sure that, you know, if Ren has his semblance evolved, Raven's like 40. Like, you would think that maybe, like, her semblance has evolved, right? Like, just in her existence, her time being alive. And so I'm sure it could, like, evolve to do that. So she senses, like, they were gonna go to the kids anyway, right? They were all trying to, like, get to Atlas anyway, but she senses the kids are in danger, and so she, like, scoop, and then the portal opens.
I also feel like a proper, like, Deus Ex Machina needs to be completely out of nowhere, but I feel like this isn't out of nowhere. We know that Raven can use this power. We know that Tai Yang knows what's going on because we see him watching the television.
Raven. Like, I know they're bandits, but still.
Yeah, we also know that Raven's in Patch from what we see at the end of Volume 5.
Yeah, whether she stayed there or not, that's up for debate, right?
Whether or not, like, they have a kind of conversation. I
still think your theory's pretty strong, though.
I think it's somewhat solid. Right? This is basically the same theory I had, but except now not in the whale, in a new perilous situation.
Exactly, right?
Because Lord knows we've had like 5 of them that season.
And so I think like this could actually be like really, really good. And I do like your idea, Hunter. However, I like the idea of like Twisted Wonderland, other dimension, like really trippy season, I guess. And like they have to like find their way out basically of this other world.
What you're saying is that just like they bring up in the conversation with the genie, that this has opened up in like that place where the relics are.
Yeah, like this isn't Remnant,
which is
wherever
a world
this is.
that is not Remnant. So they might just fall through the night sky and land
in
this new upsy daisy, whoopsie whoopsie.
Topsy-turvy.
Topsy-turvy world. Yeah,
exactly. And so I like your idea, and I actually think that yours has more merit in a lot of, like, I think that yours is probably the right one out of the two, but I'm personally really interested in the fact that Yang was like, wherever this is, it's not fucking Remnant, you know what I mean? And so I think that what could happen actually, but this would tie into your theory, is they fall, they arrive in Topsy-Turvy Wonderland, but eventually Raven gets through and like brings them out of it. And so they're trying to find a way out, but like eventually like Raven would, you know, come in and help them as well. Like I could see like that being the thing, because like unless there's a way to escape on their own, like, and people would be like, well, what was the point of them being in here for 3 episodes if they needed to da-da-da-da-da? But like you would think about it, like they're not going to be in there for that long because they still have to get to Vacuo, and I don't think that Detour is climbing through the Topsy-Turvy world per se, but rather they would end up in the Topsy-Turvy world for maybe like 2 episodes. Raven would come get them, and then they'd go to Patch, like Hunter's basically saying, right? So it would be less like them trying to escape the fucked up world and more like they're in the fucked up world for a couple episodes, but then eventually Raven opens a portal and they get back home in a way that like the, you know, Ambrosius probably didn't predict. But what I like, kind of a half a season of them escaping this topsy-turvy world without Raven, I think that that's actually kind of interesting. And so my hope, like my personal hope, I guess, is for them to fall, end up in this world, they're like, no Raven is coming to save them, none of that, right? Maybe
we have to find a way to get out ourselves. They have to find
the way out themselves.
Sorry to cut in here, but there is actually a completely logical way for them to end up escaping this dimension. Hi, I'm Noah, or GlitchedStreams. I'm actually the guy editing this video right now. You can find me right here. Kind of funny that I'm suddenly cutting in, huh? Yeah, no, it's weird for me too. But as I was saying, if Ambrosius took RWBY's instructions literally, he might have actually put this sort of big portal bridge above the realm of the vault, because that is the closest thing to the vault dimension. And so if they're not all little pocket dimensions that aren't interconnected at all, instead just these tiny little plots of land, it might actually be a big sprawling land, as Cal and Hunter said. This means we could actually get this journey in another world, and what's the best way to get out of the vault dimension other than the vaults themselves? In the past, we saw that the Mistral relic was in a barren desert and that the Atlas one was in a beautiful green field. It's very possible that the Vacuo relic of destruction is in sort of a snowy mountain place, much like what Atlas looks like in the real world. This means that if RWBY does fall and land correctly, they could go on this big journey, go up to this mountain, grab the Relic of Destruction, and escape through the vault itself. In the past, we've seen that all the vaults can be opened by a maiden from the outside, but we've never really explored what it might mean to open a vault from the inside. Do you even have to be a maiden? Is it possible? This gives the narrative exactly what we've seen in the past. There's a big detour, and then suddenly they're in Vacuo. This alternate dimension adventure, and then eventually escaping to the vault, does a lot of things for the narrative. They can get to the Relic of Destruction, open the vault, and then they're in Vacuo with a relic already in play. It would be hugely helpful to the narrative, and it would also just be really cool to explore the vault dimension and then bust out into Vacuo from the vault. But that's just kind of my theory, and without further ado, I'll send you guys back to Cal and Hunter.
And it's like, I know that RWBY did this really trippy season, but I don't know which one it was.
They did. I believe it was called the Shizno Paradox.
Yeah, like, I know that they did that, and I don't know if it was good or bad or what. Like, I don't know if it was, but I kind of, like, I'm interested in stuff like that because we cannot even theorize it. Because whatever is on this is, like, beyond our understanding. Like, it's not even Remnant. So Hunter and I can't even be like, this other world will have this, this, and that. Like, we can't even really
it might
say
end
that,
up
right?
looking like the spirit world from Avatar.
Yeah.
What I think is maybe what's going on. Everything looks very sparse and natural. My concern is that I feel like with such a change of pace, like, who would they fight? What would they do?
Exactly, right? And so that's the and so this is where I would bring in the conflict is like that this world, this weird world, is actually where the gods, like, retreated to. And because the gods retreated there are some whack things, as the kids, right? Like, because the god of darkness still likes to create grim and stuff. Like, the god of darkness still likes his little pet projects or whatever, right? So I can still see that this world is inhabited by something if the gods retreated here, right? And then they're just, like, big chillin'. You know what I mean? They're just waiting for Remnant to call them back, and they've had other projects since. And so we may see as the audience those other projects. The alternative is that instead of Cinder and Neo succeeding like we theorized in the other video, Cinder and Neo could also fall through the hole, and a big thing is, like, they're the conflict, right? They're trying to kill each other. But I do have a third theory, and I know that this is the most crack out of all of them. So your theory's like one, Raven saving them, and we don't go other dimension. Other dimension, and there's some weird stuff in it. Like, that's, like, the, you know, the sort of middle ground theory. Like, we could see the gods doing some weird things and letting those weird things. I
also think that for that theory, what would be interesting thematically is that RWBY's been about these kids that are not authority figures going against authority figures. What if a lot of a lot of Atlas and Mantle civilians fall with them, so they end up being the de facto leaders of all these people, and now they're the authority figures?
Exactly.
That could be something. I don't know if I'm crazy about it.
But here's my third thing, and this is gonna be the little, like, weird
the crack
thing.
one?
Okay, this is the crack thing.
Lay it on me.
What if this is like an Orpheus situation where Team RWBY falls into hell and they need to get out of hell, if that makes sense, right? Like, you know what I mean?
I don't know. From the little slivers we see of this world, it looks like a pretty nice place.
I know, but what if it's even fire and brimstone, but like Hades afterlife type situation. Like, what if they fall into the in-between of where Ozma was like, fuck man, send me back to the afterlife, where the fuck am I? You know what I mean? They fall into this sort of between worlds, Kingdom Hearts, realm of darkness, but also the path between situation. And what if they're like dead people, and that's the conflict? You know what I mean?
You see like Roman and Adam and Sienna.
Yeah, and like not even just them. Like think about like Salem's past. You know, Tom,
what if we see
the little kids, and it's just like this very spooky
What if
couple
we
of
see
episodes.
the kids grown up and they're like the different rulers of the underworld?
Yeah, exactly. They're the rulers of the underworld. This is so creepy. I'm getting chills. And it's not even like like there's a big castle. It's like you hear the laughter of children and you see ghosts move across the screen. And it's very creepy. But yeah, it's sort of like, you know, Orpheus like going back for Eurydice and coming out of the underworld type of thing. And like you know what would be so like funny but not in a ha-ha way? If Pyrrha joins them to help them leave the underworld, but like Eurydice is left behind, Pyrrha can obviously not go with them. Like Pyrrha would be left behind in the underworld. So she helps them and then they all cry because they're like, Pyrrha, right? And then when they don't see Summer there, that's how they know that Summer's not dead, because Summer's not in the underworld with everyone else. And so that would be like my very crack theory, is that they basically go to hell or afterlife, right? And then this afterlife is ruled and they're still, like, you can't die. It's kind of like, well, in some ways, right? But it's kind of like maybe like Has-Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss, where like you can fight each other and there's like wars in hell, but maybe not everyone like die. You know what I mean? And so like you have the grown-up kids and they're the rulers, and you have people like Adam and Roman, and then when they don't see Summer, that's when they realize that Summer must not be dead because she's not among the dead. Maybe you see the Grim guy that it was like the Hound, right?
This is cool, but it's so weird. There's no way they're gonna do it. Or if they do it, I don't think it's gonna be a season. I think it's gonna be one trippy episode and they go back to it.
I'm thinking like 3, like 2.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
3, like
I'm
an arc
thinking
in a season.
2, escape, going to vacuum. Like that's what I'm sort of thinking of. You know what I mean? A tiny little arc and then they end up in vacuum. Like a very small, like not a whole season, like maybe 4 episodes or 2 episodes. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying there's cool ideas there.
Yeah.
But fuck is
Hire
that
me,
weird.
Groovy, like
that is so weird. But then it's also like, how do they escape? Raven comes, or that they find a way themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they could, like, maybe if somebody's down there, they could make, because how it happens in, like, you know, Greek mythology, it's like, I think that Orpheus makes a deal with Hades, and Hades is like, okay, you can both go, as long as you don't look behind you. Like, that's the whole thing.
And one of those twats looked behind them, didn't
exactly. And so Eurydice goes back to the underworld, but Orpheus leaves and he wanders the earth very sad because he fucked up, right? You know what I mean? And so in this case, I don't know what the catch would be, but if we're right about like the 4 Salem's children are like the rulers of this afterlife because they had magic in a new world. Like, I'm sort of thinking that this is the afterlife for the new remnant. You know what I mean? And so they have magic and like power that people in remnant didn't necessarily have because they're the only ones with magic. And so they, you know, are kind of ruling the hell space instead of the gods. And so they make some sort of deal and there's like a catch to the deal.
I also feel like with the Wizard of Oz stuff, this could feel Wizard of Oz-y, like you have to follow the yellow brick road.
Yeah, it could be a lot of things, right?
I mean,
and like in some ways, like Wizard of Oz, like it's not necessarily like that. This isn't the writer of the book. Like he didn't want it to be this. But when you think about it, like all the movies where a kid goes to some magical world, like think about it. Dorothy like knocked her head, and that like you know what I mean. Like that was a near-death experience when you think about like the real implications.
In the book,
right? Like she actually, you know what I mean. And so like that's not what the writer of Wizard of Oz wanted. Like he has a whole allegory for like America, and so like that's a whole thing.
I've heard a lot of weird stuff.
But
like it's like there's socialist undertones
when
of it.
you think about like, oh well, this magical place doesn't exist. Like usually when people like you know go to places in kids movies and stuff, it's because like oh yeah you almost died, and so this is what you saw before death. And so in some ways like even the Wizard of Oz could be like you know a hell or a version of the afterlife where Dorothy is guiding these spirits of the Scarecrow, you know what I mean, like back out like in you know getting these things so they're like pacified.
So like wait, do you think like different past dead characters are gonna show up
Yeah,
again?
why not?
Like, so we're gonna see Lionheart as the Cowardly Lion again. And
Yeah,
then
why not?
we see Pyrrha as who's the first person Dorothy meets?
Scarecrow.
Okay, yeah. She could be Scarecrow. Or maybe she's Toto, I don't know.
Well, I don't think that, like, they're gonna go that literal with
Okay.
it, but I'm sort of thinking, like, again, like, you have the 4 witches, right? You have Glinda in the north, you have, like, the Wicked Witch, like, you could have
Yes.
sort of all the
Okay.
4 sisters represent
Okay.
something. Maybe one of the sisters is the one that makes the deal, but they're
This
all sort
is
of
so
tricky bitches.
cracked,
Like,
man.
they could do, like, a bunch of different
This
stuff,
is
you
so
know?
cracked.
Like, or maybe all
I
the
feel like
sisters
there
are
could
kind
be
of
there could be a
authoritarian.
really cool scene where like they tell those kids what happened to their mom.
Yeah, and they're like,
dad.
oh, damn, mom sounds
Hey,
like
do you
a
want to
bad...
meet your dad? Because they probably have Oscar with them.
Maybe,
unless
unless
went
Oscar
to...
doesn't fall, right?
Oh, okay. So here's the thing, Cal.
Yeah,
That's a really inventive idea.
yeah,
It would make amazing fan fiction.
yeah.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
Okay, that's okay, though. We'll see.
I
I think that yours is more likely, but
More
I just
likely?
really like the idea
Because
of
then that
of
feels
this
like
weird...
that feels like two like digressions.
'Cause,
First
like,
you have the spirit,
don't
and then
fall,
you're in veil. Like,
so why
I
not?
don't
Why
know.
can't you fall? What's in there?
yeah.
Afterlife, right?
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
But
so-
it's also like don't fall, and then they show Cinder fall, and she's like, I'm gonna kill people, and maybe that's when she has her W. I don't know.
Yeah, and so I don't know, but yeah, that's sort of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like very crack theory brain, but I hope you guys enjoyed it.
If you're right about this,
This
I'm
is like a
gonna be
legendary.
so pissed. You should tattoo like tally marks, like one for predicting Jin and one for whatever the fuck this is. Okay?
I mean, yours is probably more likely, but like, I don't know. I feel like this detour is gonna be like this big fucky thing. I just kind of feel it. I don't know why.
You feel it
I
in
feel
your
like it's not
bones,
gonna be as simple
in
as,
your
oh, we're
jellies.
going off to patch. Like, I feel like
We're
it's
off
gonna
to
be,
see the
you know, I
women.
feel like it's gonna be like a thing. And again, like that summer
Yeah.
thing, like we're coming to this head about all the Summer Rose information. And so wouldn't it be great if the head that we come to is like Summer's not in the afterlife with all these other characters, with all these other people that we know she's not here, so we know she's not dead. And then when they get back to the real world, they decide to like, you know, pursue that like in a way. Like they continue with that plot line because the Summer plot line has been so strong, but I doubt that we'll see it in this volume, unless we see like a post-credit scene where like Salem is talking to Summer, like Hound Summer, you know what I mean? And so like that could be like a thing too, like tons of things, lots of things. But I love the idea of the dead like daughters. I think that's so
Yeah,
fucked up, and to see them
that's pretty
aged
fucked
up
up,
because
yeah.
they all have like such unique designs too, and so like why
And
not
also,
use them, right?
yeah, they looked cool. I miss a lot of the dead characters. I miss
Yeah.
Sienna. I don't miss Adam, but it would be cool to see him too. Lionheart, he's neat.
Yeah.
Pyrrha? I like the
I mean,
Pyrrha.
Jen Brown's around. Wait,
Yeah.
does Jen Brown voice Pyrrha?
Yes.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
she's around.
She's
right?
still like doing VA work for.
So-
Yeah, I mean, having like spooky. Maybe we don't totally know who she is until
Yeah.
it's revealed at the end that
Bunch
she's
of
Pyrrha.
spoopy stuff.
Maybe
going
people
on.
don't quite look like how they used to in the past
Yeah.
life. Maybe they're very different. Maybe we meet Adam, but not quite Adam, but quite
Yeah.
different. Maybe the same thing with Sienna and all.
And you also wonder, like, how does dying affect people? Like, what if Adam
It's a
is...
shame we never got to ask anybody.
You know what I mean? Like, what if Adam is, like, you know, at some sort of peace? Because this isn't
Yeah.
necessarily hell, but it could be afterlife, right? And so it'd be interesting to see characters, like, either at peace or, like, very angry, right? Angry
Yeah.
spirit or, like, more at peace
Yeah.
spirit. Like, imagine Adam at peace. Like, that just sounds like a oxymoron, you know? Like, in terms of Adam's character. Or even,
Yeah.
like,
Or
Sienna.
Sienna
like,
is peaceful.
yeah.
Or Roman's like a really, like he runs
Or
an orphanage.
Or even like
Lionheart's
I imagine,
brave and he's like a knight and he's fighting everyone and he's saving the day.
I imagine more like Adam is at peace, whereas Roman's like, get me out of here! I didn't want to die! Like he's so mad. So I'm sort of like imagining
Yeah.
the opposite. Like Roman was
Okay.
always collected for the most part,
Ah.
whereas Adam was a psycho, and then in the afterlife it's reversed because Adam is like, yeah. I guess, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not great for me, whereas Roman's like, I didn't want to die yet, right? He's just so mad, and so that's what I imagine. And so yeah,
Well,
I think that that's it from us, guys. I hope, hope
If you
guys
end up
enjoy-
writing that fan fiction, send us the AO3 link, please.
But yeah, oh man, I hope I'm right. I really hope so. That'd be so cool.
Oh,
That'd
God.
actually be cool. Again, like listen, RWBY, I'm around. All right, if you ever need anything. But yeah, that's it. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and we will see you later. Bye.